Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to this week's episode of the Project Pitch It podcast. Again, I'm Kyle Herzog, founder of Old Fashioned Golf, my own Wisconsin startup. This week, we've got something a little bit different. So we're going to talk to Jamie Andrzejewski. She was on season 5 of Project Pitch It, started her own business, Nourish Natural Products, make a bunch of awesome organic natural products for your home, for your body, for everything. But then she was also a guest mogul on season 7. I met her in person when I was there doing the show. But she's got an incredible story of starting her own business right after she was laid off and kind of taking that awful thing of being laid off, turning it into something good. She's got crazy good positive advice of the mindset you have while you start a business. And then she's got some insight into Project Pitch It. She was on the show as a mogul. So great conversation. Let's get to it. Hello, Jamie. Thank you for joining us today on the show. I should tell everybody before we get into this, you and I met when I was filming my episode of Project Pitch It real briefly. You're one of the guest moguls, which we'll get into, but very nice to see you again.
Same.
In a different context.
Although I wasn't part of your episode, I was very impressed even looking, at what you were doing. So bravo.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know you work a little bit with someone who was on my show. Kind of going off script here a little bit, but Swath.
Sure, Elizabeth
Swath
was
gift.
Swath.
That's right. Who we're going to talk to on a later episode.
Oh,
so,
fantastic.
That's good.
High energy. You'll love her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's the best. Okay, back to it. So you are the founder of Nourish Natural Products, based out of Milwaukee, company that makes handcrafts, organic products for the body, mind, and home, high-quality products that are safe for both people and the planet. Unbelievably cool. I have tons of questions about your business when we get into that. But we'll step back a little, and I want to learn a little bit more about you, kind of your story from upbringing until you started the business.
Sure. So it was fun thinking through that in preparation for today, and just some common themes. I have always loved teaching. I would, with my brother and sister, go into the basement with the chalkboard, and we had some teacher versions of school books and the school books, and that was one of my favorite things to do was play teacher. And fitness has always been a passion of mine, wellness. And then I've always been in awe of and interested in fashion and just all things beautiful. And so, those threads, those passions have always been a part of my life. And it's really a really special experience that they all now commingle, with my role with Nourish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So born in Milwaukee?
Born in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Hey, right by me in Green Bay. That's good.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So moved to Milwaukee pretty early age when I was 9. Spent kind of my schooling here, went out to California for a while, went to Chicago for a while, but then came back, and I've been here almost my entire life. I love Wisconsin.
Nice.
And I have always worked within marketing, business development, and sales. I am absolutely grateful for my corporate experiences, and I draw on them all of the time. So I've worked for Discover Card, so a financial services company within marketing. And then I also worked for a publishing company. And I worked for Trusted Media Brands. I worked on a cooking magazine. And as part of that, I managed a lot of the chefs that were part of that program. And something terrifying that my boss had me do, but was so good for me, was to actually go on the road and experience what life was like for these chefs who pretty much did Food Network Live on stages to anywhere from 300 to 3,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
And so without a culinary background, I just had to jump in and figure out how do I entertain and educate audiences on cooking. But I think just with all entrepreneurs, that mindset, you figure it out. You jump in and you figure it out.
Absolutely.
And so then come 2018, I was laid off. And so that was about 18 years. I worked in corporate America, and I just internally had this piece about the layoff. When I was called into HR, my first question, do I have a severance? and she said yes, and that they were going to take good care of me. But the department I was in was very expensive, and the company was struggling. And so it never felt very personal. And maybe that was why I felt so calm. But after that, I just knew that whatever was to come next, I had just had a milestone birthday. I knew it needed to be filled with passion and purpose. And I was going to take a little bit to decide what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I've heard that story from other people too, that you think layoff and panic and all that, but it does sometimes open you up to this. Okay, with this reset, what do I truly care about? And that sounds like exactly what you did.
I think that I'm almost lucky that I was laid off because I think so many times, especially for entrepreneurs, you have to decide when's the right time.
No.
And that can be really scary to make the jump. But I didn't have to make that leap. I was forced out. And so I didn't have a choice. And again, I think that's one less decision I had to make. And I just knew I could jump in, full force.
Yeah, a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
All right, so then I saw that you talk about how around that time you had a DIY lip balm kit for your daughter. That kind of was the starting point of all this. Tell me more about that.
That's right. So at the time, my daughter was 6, and we decided to make these, at-home lip balms, and we had so much fun. I, though, have always been passionate, like we talked about, wellness, and I really care about what kind of ingredients I'm putting on and around my body.
Yep.
And so we made these lip balms, and they were super cute, but they were full of synthetic ingredients. And so I said, Emma, let's not use these. Let's order organic everything.
She said, what does organic mean, Mom?
Yes. Yeah. So we got huge tubs of everything and made more lip balm than we would ever use in a lifetime. And so I'm part of different online mom groups, and I thought, these are organic, these are super high quality. So I posted them, to the different online groups, and they sold out in minutes.
Wow.
And at that time, I had been making natural products for my family for years because although there are a lot of kind of self-proclaimed natural product companies out there, there are actually very, very few that are totally clean. And so I had been making hand washes and deodorants and roller blends for my family. And so I thought, what if the marketer in me was like, what if I just posted some of these other products? Those sold out. And at the time I had started interviewing for a new job, and nothing was really singing to my soul. And I thought, what if I set up shop at a farmer's market, spend the summer outside, give myself more time to figure out what I want to do next. And with that, though, I am a very spiritual person, and I had been praying, like, is this something? Is there something here? And I got confirmation pretty quickly to just dive in.
Oh, and you sell out that fast. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I started thinking about the idea. We made the first lip balms in April, and the first time I sold a product with sales tax was May 31st. And so it happened very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful because at farmers markets, customers, they bought the products. There were different retailers who happened to come to those farmers markets who loved the products and asked if they could carry them in their stores. And I also had a news outlet. They learned of what I was doing, and they featured one of our products. And I just felt like that was such a beautiful entrance into what is now full-fledged Nourish natural products.
Oh, absolutely. The engineer in me has a question about just making lip balm. How? I mean, on your stovetop? Like, what are the actual steps to make those first lip balms?
Yes. And I am super proud of our lip balm. And of course, I'm biased, but also if we, for whatever reason, didn't have Nourish anymore, I would still make these lip balms.
Nice, yeah. Which speaks to the product. Yeah.
And so many others. But yeah, it is. It was over the stove, and it was playing with the ingredients, how much coconut oil, how much beeswax, how much essential oil for the flavors. So it was both a science and an art. And at the time, my sister was staying with us, and I would just run up to her. She was working from our house, and I would just run up to her with, okay, here are 5 more samples. Try these. Which one do you like more? And did hundreds of recipes before we finally landed on what is now, our customer favorite lip balm. And so kind of how do I come up with this? So with my background, so I have always worked within marketing and business. but I've studied nutrition, and within nutrition, there's a ton of chemistry,
Yep.
biochemistry, organic chemistry, and so I have food chemistry. So I know how ingredients work together. I know about
Okay. Okay.
microbiology. I know those things. And then probably was about 10 years ago that I started learning about the therapeutic benefits of essential oils. And
Hmm.
so, and remember too, I had been making products for my family. So I
That's right.
had some of that background. And uh, what we did is we took products that I already had been making. And then the great thing about farmers markets is, what are people asking for? What did they
Yeah.
want that I didn't have? And
Get immediate
then we
feedback.
started,
Yeah.
I would just do research, and we would do product development and have neighbors and friends and everybody test them, and then we
Yeah.
would launch them and continue to gather feedback.
That's amazing. I think you make that sound easier of like, oh, just pour in some beeswax and things like that. But I'm sure it's, an ounce here or there makes a huge difference. So it's got to
Right.
be crazy complicated.
So here's the thing, that there are so many resources available,
Yep.
right? I didn't just start from scratch. I looked, what are other people doing? What are other people's recipes? What do I like about them? What would I do differently? And so I didn't start from total scratch,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point.
I looked at the resources around me and just made them what I consider the very best
Nice.
versions of them.
That's a good
Mhm.
point. Another thing I noticed when I was looking at your website last night, you talk about the book "You Are a Badass" by
Yes.
Jen Cicero. I saw you mention that. I think say you got it there for people that are watching YouTube.
Like two of the most influential books I've ever read.
I've seen that book cover at like Target,
Yep.
but I had never read it. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that book, why it had such a big impact on you.
Yeah. So right when I was laid off, I had a friend who from the same company was laid off, and she decided her next move was also going to be filled with passion and purpose. And she decided to become a life coach. And during her training, she needed, or maybe I forced upon her, the need to have guinea pig clients. And so I would meet with her every week. And there was a lot of unlearning that I needed to do coming out of corporate, especially because I do have a big, warm, soft heart. And I love win-win situations. And with the challenges that my company was under, it just at some points felt like win at all cost. So there was some unlearning I had to do. So it was really wonderful working with her, and to kind of just thinking about when we were making the lip balms, what if I started my own company? What if? And she really helped me gain confidence and understand. Well, let me link this into. So she recommended "You Are a Badass" to me by Jen Sincero.
The other person who was laid off at the same time.
Yeah. So
Yep. Okay.
she is a coach, but at
Life
the
coach.
time, life coach in training. So she
Nice. Yeah.
recommended this book. And it was very eye opening to me because it was all about changing your mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance and seeing opportunities everywhere. And an exercise in the book that was so impactful to me is she has you look around the room and look for things that are red. And okay, so then you do that, you close your eyes, and what things were red? And you can name several things. And then without opening your eyes, what things in the room were yellow, or pick any color, right? But any other color than red. And you're so stumped because you were so focused on the red. But those yellow colors were there all along. You just didn't notice them. And so what she equated this to is there are always opportunities available. What are you looking for? So combine that with another experience that I had it was a retreat where we went, people who wanted to use their businesses for good. And as part of that, we started with morning yoga. And that teacher, Mary Beth LaRue, she encouraged us to just trust the process. And so kind of with that, with Jen Sincero, I just really, you find what you're looking for. So look for the good. And I just let that infiltrate my mind. And just when things were tough, like one of your questions to me, what were the lows? I don't know that there were lows because I trusted and I just looked for the good in it.
Yep.
For example, something that I share with, customers, if we sent the wrong product to a customer, or for a while we had lash serums that had a greater propensity, the tube did, of the cap cracking. Now those could be, you could be like, oh, get so frustrated. Yes, it never feels good when a customer doesn't have the most delightful experience with your brand. But what I did is I said, you know what, I can have an amazing response, and service this customer. And, we would go above and beyond in making good. And then I just won that person for life, right? Because they know I'm always going to take care of them. And so that's when I say, and not that there aren't lows, right? But what do you do with them? How can you make them a high?
How do you see the positive, or else you just get overwhelmed?
Yeah. And I think another big thing with You Are a Badass that was really helpful to me too is the idea that, sometimes we think of money as being, dirty, or that
evil.
Rich people are greedy, or, and not seeing it that way, but seeing it as really opportunity that what if all of the very best people you knew had just a ton of money, right? Like, isn't that exciting about the amazing good we could go and do out in the world, right?
The good you can do with it too.
Sabotaging thoughts or just self-limiting thoughts.
And I know we'll get into it later, but I know you've kind of done that yourself and you've done a ton of good things with Nourish too. So we'll get into that.
Can I brag for a second?
Of course.
So every photo shoot we do, I take photos with these books, and I talk about this on our social, and we always tag Jen Sincero, and she does something called Badass of the Week.
I was going to ask if you've met her. I think you're leading to this. Yes, go on. Good.
Yeah, so I recently was named a Badass of the Week, and it was such a wonderful joy. I have met her on book tour, and then she's coming to Milwaukee at the end of April. So
we got to send her this.
Badass is going.
We'll tag her in this. Maybe she'll reshare. There you go. That's good.
We actually have a product for her. My homage to her is our Prosperity Roller Blend.
Oh, very cool.
So it has citrine crystals infused in the blend, and citrine is the crystal of prosperity, wealth, and abundance. And so I'm going to be giving her our Prosperity Blend when I see her.
It's got. I'll stay on this a little bit because it's got to be wild to think. You read this book. Oh, this is inspiring. This is cool. And now, X years later, you tied in with her and meeting her, and all these crazy things that come with a startup. But what a great example of this crazy stuff can happen if you work at it. So
and it will happen. And I think the difference for so many people is showing up. I feel so many people are nervous or they don't show up, and most people don't. And so by, even just by default, you're ahead. And I've always believed that the majority of winning is starting. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I am a recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. And you have to decide when things are good enough and you just go out there, versus waiting until things are perfect. And I think there's a lot of fruit for people who put themselves out there.
Yeah. Especially in that startup process. You can spin forever trying to get it to perfect, and then you never start. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
All right, some questions about kind of digging into that period of when you did go from corporate America to your own business. So I think you kind of answered this already. But was there a moment when it clicked for you of not just I'm making these products for fun and for family, but this is a business. Like I need to put it in writing and legally establish an LLC and things like that. Is there a moment you remember when that clicked?
I remember that it always was going to work, and that
it was always right away.
Yeah. So I don't know if I should say this or not, but Eminem has a song, and it's like "Success is my only blank option." Failure's not. Bleep. Yeah.
Yep.
And I just always believed that it was going to work, and from the beginning, I did it. I immediately after making those lip balms and putting them on the website, and that they sold out in 30 minutes, I was like, this is something. I started thinking about a name. I started, I looked into how to establish an LLC. I did all of that very quickly, and I just believed in myself from day one.
That positivity that this will go through. Yeah, that's well,
good. Because you can always you always can figure things out. There are always people available to teach you and to help you. And I think you have to have that unwavering belief in yourself, because this is a very amazing but very testing space to be in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very true. We talked about money a little bit. Got to ask, how did you fund the starting of this? Because it does sound like this is very expensive to get this material and all these products. How did you fund it early on?
Sure. So Nourish continues to be bootstrapped.
Oh, wow.
So I'm grateful for my sugar daddy.
Yeah, there you go.
Scott is my husband. He's wonderful, but we really had to say, like, are we willing to take on some debt?
Oh, yeah.
And we have taken on a lot of debt. And I, was the hardest working volunteer for Nourish for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
I just invested every penny we made back into the business. And so, but truly, for those who are like, how do you really fund a business? So something I had going for me, remember, was that severance package.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So that was certainly very, very helpful. We took out a HELOC on our house, right?
Wow, so you really went all in. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago too, I took out a business line of credit, and we also have a business credit card, right? So certainly we are a profitable business, but there are times when cash flow is tight and you need to have options.
Yeah, absolutely. And you probably struggle with one of the things we do making golf polos is the inventory of, we have all these sales coming in, but now I need to buy $20,000 worth of product. That whole, the cash flow dilemma of we're doing so great and there's no cash.
Right.
Is an interesting thing early on, which I've had to wrap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Payroll and raw materials, those are expensive.
It's challenging.
things.
Yes, exactly. So you make those first couple products and you're going to start making them at a larger scale. Do you continue making them, yourself in your house for a while? Or when did you get like a manufacturing facility?
Sure. So I don't remember exactly, but I launched Nourish May 31st, right?
Of 2018?
Formally. 2018.
2018. Okay.
By either June or July, I had hired my first person.
Oh, wow. Fast. Okay.
Because I knew that I needed to stay in my lane of genius, right? And making products was neither my passion nor my lane of genius. And so there was no way I could make all of the products and build a scalable business. And so I brought in my first employee she made all the products. And so, I am very, very fortunate that my father-in-law, he is an incredibly generous man. He has allowed us to take over more and more of his space. And now, so
for manufacturing.
For manufacturing.
Oh,
so
very
we have
cool.
taken
Okay.
over all of his basement, all of his first floor, and it is the Nourish production facility.
Wow.
I am rent-free.
Oh, in Milwaukee?
He lives in Port Washington.
Okay.
So right now, and I used to be embarrassed or just feel like it wasn't big and flashy enough to say like, yeah, we work out of a house, but
It works.
you do what you have to do. You have to be really, really scrappy in the beginning, because you want to do all the things, and all the things cost money. So you're scrappy where you have to be.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not big and flashy, but it works. Ultimately, if it gets you to a product that the customers like and it's selling out, who cares where you're making it? That goes back to what you were saying before of overthinking things at time. And
right.
Really,
right. It works, and it's
it works.
Free, so why not?
Exactly.
And that's how he feels. He's really supporting me and the business, and what a special thing for both of us.
Yeah. And it speaks to the other episodes of this we've done of just how willing people are to help in the Wisconsin area of, yes, this is a direct family member, but even again, where I met you at Project Pitch It, you were helping work with Elizabeth and you were mentoring her, and just like all these people that are willing to help, put yourself out there, good comes back at you if you're willing to do it. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. Very true. All right. Where do you get all your materials to make these products? Again, I get overwhelmed thinking about a lot of this of, where are you sourcing all the materials before you even turn them into final product?
Right. So another thing I had going for me is that I had already been buying a lot of
Oh
these
yeah, yeah.
ingredients when I was making my own products. What's really important to us is, and something I pride myself on is I truly believe we have the highest quality ingredients in our products. And I would put our company up against any company in the country. I so strongly believe in that. We very much care in how the people we work with, how not just what they do, but how they do it. And so many, all of our ingredients are plants, all of them, right? So what is, we 100% clean and natural ingredients.
Wow,
Everything is a
I didn't
plant.
realize that. Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
So how are farmers, stewarding their lands? What kind of practices are they having? Now, we work with companies that work with the farmers, right? So we don't have those relationships yet with the farmers, but we really, really care. We really care that all of the ingredients are third party tested to ensure that there aren't any synthetic chemicals, in them. And, everything we do, yes, I want people to think things smell nice, but everything we do is intended for a therapeutic benefit. And so that's why I'm such a stickler on what we buy and what is it packaged in. I don't want it packaged in plastic because essential oils are naturally detoxifying and they're going to pull those toxins out of the plastic, right? So I care about every detail of what goes, how our ingredients are grown, and sourced and packaged. It all matters to me.
I saw on your website that there's a long list of impressive things you do like that. And to your point of the details, you had something on there about packing peanuts.
Yes.
Even about the kind you use and how you think about that in this whole chain. It's just the attention to detail is unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's something too that I'm excited about as we continue to grow, to do more in terms of sustainability. And when we get our own facility too, right? Yeah. We use distilled water in our sprays, and I don't love how we currently buy distilled water, but I would like to outfit a sink where just distilled water comes out of the tap. Like obviously it's a very special, process to turn tap water into distilled water, but just minimizing our environmental impact. Okay, sure. So there are things, we're talking to Pact Collective. Our customers so badly want to return their glass bottles to us when they finish. And we don't have a proper way to sanitize them right now. Oh, yeah. And especially coming out of the pandemic, we just felt we don't want to take on that liability. But working with someone like Pact Collective, our customers can send them our bottles, and they can, they work with, different organizations to either recycle or repurpose. And so, in the meantime, the clever things that we've done is, hey, come to one of our events. We'll refill your bottle. Oh, yeah. We'll do it in person. Event. Yeah. Or we've created these really adorable stickers or labels that you can put over the Nourish label and turn it into a bud vase, right? So again, that scrappy mentality of, we can't yet do everything, but what can we do right now? Yeah. And yeah.
That's amazing. The level of detail is awesome. How do you build a website? I know it's a vague question, but early on in the process, I think that's a tough one for everyone of just, okay, I have a great product. I want to start selling it. What steps did you take to get your website out there?
Sure. So it was, again, relying on my network. I had an intern who when she was interning for us, she started her own company and she built her website. So in the beginning, I, called on Jenna and I said, hey, can you help me? And she helped us put together our first website. Nice. And I think something that was really important to me, I do a tremendous number of events and I love them. And especially in the beginning, they were so helpful to me because what were people asking me about? What didn't they know that I had on the labels? Just the kind of questions inform so many things, right? The product labels themselves, but what to write about on the website, and again, it just goes back to, you just have to put something out there and you can keep improving. Now we started on Wix. Wix was a great company for us in the beginning. Yeah. We're now, several years ago, we moved to Shopify, right? Which is a super strong e-commerce platform. And it's okay, right? You just I always trust that I do the best with what I have at that time. And as you learn more, you can iterate.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
turn this into a Shopify ad for a second.
Right. And
Unpaid
Jenna
ad,
at
but
the time, she was an amateur photographer,
oh, nice.
better than I was.
Yeah, it's something
So she
though.
took the photos and we rolled with it.
You get it out there and then you're good. Yeah, we've used Shopify for our website too, and the website overwhelms me to this day of how to do it all, and yet there is tools that make it easy.
Yes.
Shopify is a great one of,
Yes.
like you said, again, get started, put something up there, iterate
That's
and make
right.
it better, but just get it started and out there.
Right. And I think you do that and you combine that with the thought of, okay, I'm going to stay in my lane of genius because that's how I'm going to maximize my value. Right.
Yeah.
So when we moved to Shopify, I wasn't going to do it. Could I learn it? Absolutely. But at what price?
Yeah, right.
What else would have had to give? So I went out there and I was super fortunate to find an amazing website developer who I love her as a person. She's become a friend of mine and she is very affordable, and it just right now I've been interviewing SEO agencies because I know that's a next right step for us. And there are some parts like SEO is crazy expensive.
Oh God,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
I was gonna say you said it, and I got nervous just because we've been
know.
researching it too, and I'm like, oh God, SEO, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like a $50,000 investment
It's wild
because you sign up for a year. So what I'm looking at right now is I know it's important, but what pieces could we do on our own?
Right.
To save some of that money, and what pieces does it not make sense for us to spend time trying to become experts in?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you keep saying it kind of, but like the steps. If you don't got to get all the way there right away, but get started and then you can iterate on it later. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's right.
All right, we haven't really talked about Project Pitch It, but you've got all kinds of Project Pitch It tie-ins. Let's go back.
I love Project Pitch It.
Let's go back to season 5. So you were originally on season 5. Is that correct?
That's right.
And I watched your episode recently. That must have been like mid-pandemic times because you weren't actually in the room with the moguls. Is that right?
Right, that was right. And I try to think if that was more difficult or not, because you want to be able to feed off of people's energy.
Absolutely.
And when we were pitching, the computer screen was so high, but we had to look above the computer screen, for the camera. And that's just tough because I play off of, how are people respond? Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. But yes, it was during the pandemic. And I loved that I had the opportunity to come back when it was in the studio. Yeah. So I love Project Pitch It. This was, sharing to other entrepreneurs. This was about me showing up anywhere and everywhere I could. And I'm so grateful because Project Pitch It has been outstanding to me. So not only in the pitch process itself and the rewards, but the connections that I've made. So when I was part of Project Pitch It, there was a different director who we worked with, but he saw my passion. He saw how important social impact is to me. And he worked at Cardinal Stritch at the time. And Cardinal Stritch has wonderful programs, one called Mission Fuel, which is an accelerator program for nonprofits. And so he invited me to share how Nourish uses its platform in the business for good, and there's a lot that goes into that program, but that was so cool. And then also at Cardinal Stritch, I am able to participate in their senior capstone classes. And we are able to work with their senior students who then take on projects for Nourish, which has been really wonderful. And then Jerry Jandusa has been wonderful to me. He mentors me. He allows me to come into his office and we put up huge Post-it notes, all around the room, and we just brainstorm. So these people, the moguls, they're so generous with their financial support of the program, but they really do care about Wisconsin entrepreneurs.
Oh, totally agree.
Tremendous experience.
My quick plug for Jerry from my episode. I walked into film. I was so nervous. I've never been on TV. I don't know what I'm doing. And he saw I had set out product for my pitch, and he saw me and waved me in and kind of pulled me over and just talked about how amazing it was. He bought some custom stuff for Breakthrough. And by just that quick interaction with him, I was like, I'm great. I feel good. So again, their willingness to support and that they really do care. that
Yes.
comes through when you're on the show.
Yes.
I think, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing, but for a lot of people on the show, me included, I haven't done a lot of pitches. I haven't went to VCs and done this kind of thing. But that was my first time through the elevator pitch, I'll call it. Had you done a lot of that before you were on the show? Or was this one of your first times too of give my 2-minute spiel on Nourish?
Sure. So a few, but certainly it wasn't something that I had expertise in.
No.
For people who are listening, one of the biggest things I've learned in pitch competition is to be really clear with, and if it's for money, I'm not talking VCs, right? I'm just competitions that have financial rewards.
Yep.
My strongest recommendation is to share how you're going to use the money, to have a very clear vision of how you're going to use it. And so, people want to do business, and people want to help those they know, like, and trust. And so come across as, as that. And I think both you and I too, right? We have a lot of energy, charisma. We actually really
I'll go with energy. I don't think I give myself charisma, but we'll go energy.
Yes,
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. To something you just said, what did you use the money for? How did the money help you from Project Pitch It?
Sure. And so remember, we were in the pandemic, right? And it was very uncertain of what was going to happen. And fortunately for Nourish, we actually thrived in the pandemic. We were making hand sanitizer when the world ran out because we used natural ingredients. And anyway, that was huge for us.
I didn't think of that. Great point.
And then later on, we had customers come and ask us because they were breaking out and really irritated from wearing masks all day.
Oh, yeah. My wife talked about that a bunch. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we created a product called Maskne Relief Spray. And so that was another huge thing for us. So we had triple-digit growth in 2020, 2021. And so sad time in the world, really great time for some of us local makers. And there was such a push too for supporting local makers. And so anyway, back to how did I use the money?
Yeah.
I think something with owning in a business is you deeply care about your business and you want to do big flashy things, but sometimes you just have to be really like a really great steward and really smart. And so I knew that because we were in this unpredictable time, I used it for cash flow. I used it for payroll and for raw materials. And I know that's not a glamorous answer, but we had a strong foundation in place. And so that money came in at a beautiful time, so that we could keep our lights on.
That makes sense. And that's, they asked me that question of what would you use the prize money for? And I just bluntly said inventory. Same as you. Like, I just this is just a cash crazy business to have a physical product, same as you. And that's what we need it for. So,
that's right.
Yeah, that's just the honest answer. All right. So current state of your business again. Let's jump into some of that. How many people work for Nourish right now?
Sure. So I have 6 amazing women on my
6?
team.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you have Scott and Joe, right?
That's right.
So I have
You did your research. Look at this. That's good. Yeah.
I have my versions of Scott and Joe. And although they're not co-founders, they play super important roles on my team.
Very cool. So 6 people. And are you with them every day or is it remote? I mean, what's kind of the daily setup?
Sure. So no, I'm not with them every day, but I feel like it's really important to have presence and to check in and that everybody knows what, the important priorities are and just to be appreciated and acknowledged. So we meet every Wednesday virtually. There are five of us who work virtually or remotely. And then there are 2 people on the team who work at the production facility every day.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. What we've talked about products a little bit here and there, but what are your best-selling products?
Sure. So our personal care products do really well for us. So our hair thickening spray is a huge seller. The very best seller that we only sell 4 months of the year is our organic bug spray.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then our lip balm, our lash and brow growth serum. We have a sage smudge room spray. Our Sweet Dream spray, and then our roller blends for stress and anxiety. Okay. Those are our top sellers. Something that I learned from a mogul when I was on Project Pitch It, because I was so proud to walk in there and say, we have over 85 different products,
And he
right? I
said,
thought
too
that
many.
was
Yeah.
yes. And Joanne Sabir, she's like, why? Why do you have that many? And I really took that, to heart, and really started focusing on what are our best sellers and putting more effort to those things. That's what I was impressed with on your website too. Your products, and you're not going on tangents that don't feel authentic to your brand. And so we've worked really hard to sunset products that just aren't performing. And that has made a big difference in our profitability.
Which is hard, because you always, kind of like you said,
babies.
you think this is great. What do you mean this product's perfect? And then saying, nah, maybe it's got to scale back is always tough. Yeah. So what's next? What do you got coming next in 2023?
So this is my year of saying no. I have, and I think through that, right? Because when I say that, it's my year of saying no, so I can say yes to what really matters to me and what really is going to move the needle. But I do believe, and this is my experience, I said yes and showed up for everything, everywhere, all the time. And would I do it differently? I don't know, right? Because I knew that if I was going to scale this, I had to get out there. I had to be in the community. I had to build brand awareness. I had to pour into people. I had to let people know what we were all about. And I had to learn product research, right? Without doing formal focus groups, right? I was doing focus groups and learning about my customer many days a week, right? So now I have this wealth of information. I deeply know my customer, right? So talking about how do I do marketing? How do I build my website? Because I have spent so much time with my customers.
Constant info. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do feel though that I have paid my dues, and I've showed up. So now I'm trying to be just getting really curious about where it matters most to show up. And because I spend so much time cultivating my energy, I want to make sure that I'm meeting with people who, are at that energy level. So I'm not constantly trying to recover,
That makes sense.
And it doesn't make sense to go do events where, if I show up here and, we don't sell much, or I'm not talking to many people, right? Like that hurts. That, it's not worth whatever money you make there. So anyway, so for 2023, being very intentional with where I spend my time, because for us, we make a third of our revenue across events. We make it across our retail partners, and then a third for website sales. We have a big part to where, if we're going to be stepping back from specialty events, we want to invest in direct to consumer. So that's why we're looking at things like SEO and digital marketing efforts. And also with our retail partners, we're really good to them, but we don't have a strategic plan in place for how we share resources and how we talk to them and at what cadence we talk to them. So we're really looking, just to put some more processes in place.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then, for me, something super, super fun. I love pouring into people. Love it. It's my favorite thing to do. And my why for Nourish was to use the products to build a platform to have a louder voice, to be able to pour into women and remind women you matter. And Kyle, you matter too.
Well, that's okay. I know what you're saying. Yes, thank you.
Our business is predominantly women. Yeah. And so, doing things now where, starting, it's the Playing Big by Tara Moore, starting a book club.
Cool.
For customers, and we're going to walk through this together, and in playing big and meaning really understanding what are our true gifts, and what's in the way of us being able to shine in those gifts. I am doing some facilitated workshops this year, which I'm really excited about. And I think for me too, I really want to become a thought leader in our space, the clean products space, but then also kind of mindfulness, mindful self-compassion, and just taking really good care of yourself.
Yeah. Very cool. It's got to be, I don't know how to say this right, and I hope this comes off as a compliment, but as someone like you who starts this business is so successful and you get yourself out there more, there's the brand of the business, but there's also kind of this brand of you have to deal with because you have been successful in this. And Project Pitch It is part of that. That's probably another thing you've almost got to start to balance now is there's Nourish, and there's Jamie, and they're intertwined. And how do we feed off each other? I don't really have a
right.
question there, other than that's cool, but something you gotta deal with.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think too, I saw one of your questions about balance. How do you
Yep.
balance them
Oh,
both?
absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know that entrepreneurs necessarily want to balance, that we love to be exhilarated. We're visionary. We love new ideas. And so it's part of our DNA. And so part of who Jamie is,
I
is
like this. I got you in third
an
person. Now we're
entrepreneur.
talking. Yeah.
Right, but it is exciting for me, and I do want to think about it all the time.
Yep.
But in terms of that, with balance, what I think about is how am I taking really good care of myself? Because if I'm not, I know I'm not able to show up in my fullest self, and so
Absolutely.
I absolutely prioritize self care. In terms of meditation, in terms of fitness, in terms of really taking great care of my mental health, my physical health. So that is a priority. But Nourish is a huge part of who I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But I usually at the end here like to ask about advice you have for others who are starting businesses. I feel like you've sprinkled that a lot in there with show up, authenticity, get started and get moving. I guess any advice you'd give for starting entrepreneurs in Wisconsin or anywhere that we haven't touched on yet to this point.
Yes. So those, I love that you picked those up, right?
Yeah.
And you have to, the old marketing adage, right? People
Yeah.
need to hear things 5 times
Oh,
before
at
they
least.
remember. So
Yeah.
thank
10
you.
times if it's me. Yeah.
Yeah. I credit most of my success with showing up.
Yeah.
Showing up, doing things, even if you're scared, right? And knowing that there are so many people who are cheering for you. And in Wisconsin, the whole Midwest Nice really applies. There are so many resources available to us. I know in Milwaukee, the Greater Milwaukee Foundation, the Spark program, the Scale Up program is amazing. Project Pitch It, of course,
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. There are so many different networking groups. I grew with Nourish, with Local First Milwaukee. It no longer is, but there are so many supportive groups. And it's not who are your leads? What can you do for me? It's who are you? How can I help you? And truly embrace the together we rise, right? There is so much opportunity. We're not competing against each other, right? We are working, to uplift each other, and there is space for all of us, right? There are other people who manufacture golf shirts, right? But
Oh yeah.
nobody does it quite like you,
Right.
right? You will always put your own special spin on it. And
Sure.
there are people who you're going to be a lighthouse and people are going to be attracted to you.
Yeah.
And there's space for all of us.
That's so true. Even people that early on I thought they won't be willing to help me. They always are. Yeah. I
Yes.
mean that
Yes.
I'm looking at the words I've written down, showing up. It's so
Yeah.
true. Like
And
put
leaning
yourself
into
out there,
customer
ask, try.
service, right?
Oh yeah.
That's what sets apart
Yeah.
small businesses from really big businesses. And so there are things that are going to happen. And I sometimes I'm curious why some of the small business makers don't want to take really, really good care of their customers. Let's say
Yep.
something wrong happens with an order or, but just take really, really good care of your customers.
Yep.
And then, give back.
Yep.
Give back because it will come back to you tenfold.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, that's a thing we've talked about in giving back is we do a lot with organizations where we donate products and things like that. And it's great and it feels great. It's also marketing. That
Yes.
giving back feeds upon itself. And
Yes.
I hope that's okay to say, but it is true. You're doing good and it helps your business. That giving back thing is so good on every level.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally agree.
Bravo to you. It really matters.
Yeah.
I am so blown away by the percentage that small business makers give back to the community, right? It's so much.
Yep, absolutely. It's the Midwest Nice again, like you said.
That's right.
That's it. That's all I've got. Let me plug your products a little bit. I don't think we've said the website at all. So nourishnaturalproducts.com. Then you've got a bunch on social media, just at Nourish Natural Products. And we talked about this a whole bunch, but you're a guest mogul on season 7. So of
Such an
Project Pitch
honor.
It. Yeah, it was
Mhm.
very cool. I told you before, I've seen some of your episodes now because I've gotten sneak previews. You haven't, but it's awesome. It's all good. They start on channel 12 in Milwaukee. They're on Saturdays at 10:30 p.m. Sundays at 11:30 a.m., and then they spread across the state after that. So
Yes.
very cool. Thank you for doing this. Again, I go back to the day I was on the show and I met you, and just seeing someone who had been through this process and that had the passion and the energy you did, I was instantly like, this is awesome. This is a big deal. This is inspiring just to see you there. And now your willingness to do this, your willingness to do all the good you're doing, inspirational, awesome. Thank you very much.
I know we both would say for entrepreneurs to please check out Project Pitch It. Right? It is an amazing organization, an amazing resource, and it's so much more than the show. It's so much more than the prize. That these are connections you'll have forever.
Absolutely. And I'd say when season 8, they'll start looking for applicants at some point, apply. When I applied, maybe you're the same. I filmed my 2-minute video in my basement on my cell phone, and I thought, that'll never go anywhere. And here I am, doing a podcast with them, show up, like you said.
Congratulations.
Exactly. All right, Jamie, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And that's it for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Huge thank you to Jamie for taking the time to do that. I know I mentioned it to her, but business is growing, and just her own kind of personal brand is growing too, with her positivity, her willingness to help. Awesome person. Really appreciate her being part of Project Pitch It and her being part of this podcast. So much more to come. Again, much more conversations with moguls, startups, Wisconsin entrepreneurs, lots more to come. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Talk again soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.